Wabash. Today speaking in Pioneer Chapel is Hugh Vandivier, class of 1991. Giving his talk titled Connecting the Dots, please welcome Hugh Vandivier.
Taking this in. Good morning, Wabash.
Good morning to you.
You know, at a time like this, I recall Bill Plaker, who was a professor who I probably minored in when I was here. And whenever someone had accorded him an accolade such as this, he often recalled the Abraham Lincoln story of the man who had been ridden out of town on a rail. The man was heard to exclaim, "If it weren't for the honor of the thing, I'd just as soon walk." But I'm so honored. That didn't get the laugh line, I thought. I'm really honored to speak here at this chapel talk. And I want to thank Jacob and Levi and the Sphinx Club for inviting me. It's tax day, April 15th, 2013. Starting at 2:49 p.m., 2 homemade bombs went off right by the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Now, at the time, I was working in marketing for Angie's List, and we were on the 3rd floor of a big brick building. There are about 50 of us working together, just all slammed together the way they do in tech. And what started as a whisper then became a murmur, and then became an exclamation of, "My God, they've bombed the Boston Marathon." Work stopped, and all of us were glued to our screens trying to find information that was unfolding of the terror and the carnage and the chaos that was ensuing. And as it sank in what was happening, I really searched for that thing of what to do, that helplessness that we feel when something major like this happens. And so I thought, well, you know, their thoughts, their prayers, they're sending money, all of which are appropriate. But I want to do something a little bit more significant, and I was trying to puzzle out what that might be. So I finally came to this idea of, as somebody who has been an athlete and a swimmer, distance swimmer, and feeling what it's like to finish your race at the end of a long race, and what I can only imagine is a marathon of that tiredness where your body's saying, please stop doing this to me. And the lactic acid builds up, and that's all mental from that last part forward, especially that last mile. And I cast myself there among the people, and that being as part of that race or a spectator, what it was like, what it would have been like to have that focus just completely, that part of your life just completely wrecked by this bomb that had gone off. And so I thought about that, and I thought about that last mile. Wow, okay, there's a start. And I thought about helping to finish that last mile for the people who couldn't. There's the theme. And then I said, but I'm in Indianapolis. I've never been to Boston. What can I do? So, focal point of Indianapolis, obviously, is the circle, Monument Circle. How about I run a mile, that last mile? And how about, that's the finish point. So where's the start? So conveniently enough for Indianapolis, it's designed in a good grid system. Mile out, here's a corner. Google Maps is helpful in these things. And you get this corner. It's College, St. Clair Street, and Massachusetts Avenue, Massachusetts, Boston, perfect. There's this nice little grassy part. So I'll start there, and we'll run. And all of a sudden, I became we. So we'll run to the circle. When? How about Saturday? This happened on a Monday, we'll do Saturday, 2:49. Let's start it when the bomb went off so we can finish it. So what I did was, conveniently enough at the time, I was part of a side project that curated and created local content for Indianapolis. And so I had a forum, WordPress, banged out this idea, promoted it, social media, created a Facebook group, and invited as many people from Indianapolis as Facebook would let me. Next day, I got a call. Somebody had seen that and forwarded it to a producer of a local morning radio show. So Smiley Show called up, and they said, hey, would you like to go on the radio and talk about what you're doing? What I'm doing, okay. I said, sure. They said, how about 15 minutes? We'll call you at this number? I said, sure. Hung up and said, damn, I'm in a room of 50 people. I can't exactly take a call over the air like that. So I ducked into a conference room that was used by C-level employees. Nobody was using it. Closed both doors. Helped myself to a Coke in the fridge and waited. Call came in, I was relaxed and told them exactly what I wanted to do and why I was doing it. This is Indianapolis reaching out to Boston, and we want to say that we're with you. This could have happened here, could happen anywhere. And we're there for you. So Saturday rolls around, and I'm there about 20 minutes early, and I've got my running gear on, and I'm laughing, running gear for me. Bad part of the plan. Not a good runner. I'm a swimmer. I'm on dry land, and I'm not in shape. Didn't matter. Details. So my buddy Dave shows up, and I haven't seen Dave in a while. He and I used to buddy around. He's a musician. He used to hang around in Broad Ripple, and he brought his kids, and he said, we're going to run with you. Some other people started to show up, and they said, is this the last mile? Is this the thing I heard on the show? I said, yeah. And more people started to show up. And my friend Rebecca showed up, and she teaches art and made me a runner's bib. Said the last mile. Brought the little safety pins, and we pinned it to the back. I wore a shirt that was the Indianapolis flag. And so, counted down, 2:49, we ran. Or rather, everybody else ran, and I ran a couple blocks and got winded, and walked, and ran, and walked, and trotted, and made way to the circle. Once we got there were about 65 people there. And in that crowd, a couple came up to me, and they said, are you the organizer of this? And I said, yeah. They said, we just got back from Boston. Turns out the husband had finished the race, his wife was in the middle of finishing, and neither was in the blast zone, but they were dealing with everything that had gone on. And so they did the last mile. And they said, thank you. They said, we've been trying to figure out a way to process this, what we've been through, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to kind of deal with this. So that, I tell this story because I want to talk about how connections are so important, because good connections often start from what's inside us wanting to do something. It's not always just about getting the job or getting advancement and doing those things. It starts from a personal need, and that's a sincere need. And the best ones are not transactional, meaning it's not necessarily where you expect something in return. They work best when you exhibit what Rob Shooks pointed out last month of being visible, being authentic, being engaged, and being civil. Now here at Wabash, we talk about connecting all the time, but when we talk about connecting, those conversations inevitably lead to the Wabash Network. For instance, last March, before I started working here, I talked with some prospective students at the Scarlet Celebration. And over, they all talked about how the Wabash Network was a prime reason why they considered going here. Now, I'm marking my 30 years since I began my journey as a Wabash man in the fall of 1987. I'm one member of the largest class to matriculate and graduate from Wabash College. But when I chose to come here, I primarily decided that I wanted a place where I could swim. I came here because I'm the kind of guy who was doing my physics homework in AP English class the period before, and because I was creative, I was smart, and I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to go to a campus that was forcing me to pick a major before I'd set foot on it. Sound familiar? But I didn't think, oh, there's this great network. No, that was wrapped up in a broader and more venerable notion of Wabash being a good school. Now, I'm sure you know that Wabash can proudly boast a #1 alumni network ranking from the Princeton Review, second year in a row. The review bases this on surveys of 137,000 students at 382 colleges and universities across the country. So that means that you, as students, recognize the valuable contributions that alumni can help with your education. Now, how do alumni help Wabash? Let me count the ways. We talk to prospective students and their parents. We'll refer a young man who we've likely never met, but whom we've seen profiled in a newspaper, TV, or social media. For moot court, coming up, we ask a panel of judges, and these are faculty, administration, lawyers, and actual judges, to develop a problem for student advocates to do battle, rhetorically speaking. We bring poor OLAB students to grief in steep labor negotiations. We make students sweat in mock interviews coming up, but we also donate our suits so that you can use them for actual interviews. We guide those 10 small nonprofits on campus that we call national, international fraternities in their efforts to recruit and onboard new members and to provide institutional memory for your operations. We will call up career services when an HR will greenlight an intern for us and say, who you got? We drive many miles and many hours to counsel, mentor, and serve as your big brothers. We hold you and each of you and each other to the high standards of the gentleman's rule. And we hate it when you flake on us and don't get back to us. We don't let each other strut around full of themselves, acting like they own the place, even when they do own the place. And when we're down and when we're hurting, either physically, mentally, or emotionally, we pick each other up and we remind ourselves that in life, just as in college, Wabash always fights. And yes, we donate to the annual fund and to the Day of Giving and every day of the year. And when we donate money, like when we're donating our time, we're always asking, how can I improve the lives of Wabash men? We're here for you. And your alumni are so honored that you recognize us with that wonderful Princeton Review ranking. While other school students are bragging about the kegger blowout that they might have remembered last weekend, you Wabash men told the Princeton Review that you value your classroom experience, your teachers, your internships, career services, the administration, and the athletic facilities. Now, two things that really have not changed since I trudged up the creaky stairs at Center Hall as a student. One, most of the time when you're living your life as a student on this campus, you have no idea, are unaware of the Wabash Network. Number two, when you become aware of it, you have no idea how to access it. I was there, let me help. At the risk of using this lectern to dispense wisdom, I'll start with a quote from a really good book I like called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Austin says, it's one of my theories that when people give you advice, they're really just talking to themselves in the past. Well, so what exactly is the network? And specifically, what is your network? Start with your rents, your sibs, your Mimi and Gapa, that's what I called them, your cousins, boyfriends of your sister, that aunt and uncle who really aren't related to you. And then take heed from the old Sesame Street song, who are the people in your neighborhood, the people who you see each day? These include the folks in your town growing up. They're your shopkeepers, your teachers, your coaches, your den mothers, your employers from jobs you've had. All of these people have known you most of your life, and they want you to succeed. And they have connections you may not have considered. So next, let's expand to the campus. It's not just your fraternity brothers, guys you attend class with, guys on your floor, teammates. That's easy. It's faculty, yes, but it's also staff. It's those alumni who work here at the college, but it's also those people you interact with every day. Those staff in the business office, dean's office, athletic office, TripIt, Schroeder Career Center, everywhere on campus. Make sure you're making their day when you talk to them. They've seen many students come through here, and they are a great resource. Now, let's talk about that vaunted, mysterious alumni network, shall we? You may have heard the term Wabash Mafia. And let me tell you, it is really all about connections with the Mafia. My first big job after graduating, I landed from a classmate. At homecoming, Eric Dafforn clued me into the opening. I applied. He helped prep me for the interview, and I got the job. And pretty soon, another classmate of ours was working there. And pretty soon, somebody had graduated the year after, and the year after that. And pretty soon, we had 5 or 6 of us who were working in the same company. Now, most of the jobs I've had have resulted from a Wabash connection, either directly or a degree of separation. But what's interesting when I look back on it is none of them have come from a Phi Delta fraternity brother or a swimming teammate. And the lesson here is that don't merely rely on your small circle of affinity as your network. You might find that dream job from somebody that you had in a freshman tutorial that was in your advising group when you first set foot on campus and haven't seen for 3 years. Keeping your eyes open is very important as well. Once you're aware of where the network exists, you'll see Wabash everywhere. Kurt Vonnegut once wrote in Cat's Cradle, "I don't know what it is about Hoosiers, but wherever you go, there's always a Hoosier doing something very important there." Substitute Wabash for Hoosiers, and you know what I'm talking about. Now, this is big. You will have to muster up the courage to cross the river of lava that is called Wabash Avenue to get to career services. Pay attention. Everybody seeing these posters? Pay attention to these posters. This is the roadmap to help you connect to the network. Now, fresh from the good folks at Career Services, I have a usage report for the first 3.5 weeks of the year, as far as visitation from our good folks over there. They report that 234 students have visited Career Services compared to 177 last year. That's good. 98 of you attended events compared to 168 last year. Not so good. 17 students have visited the suit room so far, which is 10 fewer than last year. So get thee to Career Services. Also, because you guys are competitive, do you want to guess which class is beating the pants off the others as far as going? Not the seniors. The freshmen, 40% of their class have visited Career Services so far. %. Next, seniors, 27%. Juniors, 22%, just beating off the sophomores at 21%. You guys are competitive, let's work on those, right? I will tell you right off that if you graduate from this school and 2 weeks after contact me to network, my first question will be, have you been to Career Services? And if you say no, that will be a very short conversation. Get the applause line from Roland Moore and my classmate in the back. And yes, gentlemen, connecting online and social media is very important. When I attended Wabash, which is a phrase I know students hate to hear, we had a payphone on the first floor, we had a payphone on the second floor, and no internet. How did we meet with people? We arranged it ahead of time. What happens when they ran late? We waited, and we waited, and we did a lot of waiting. Guys, I really marvel at your life on campus today. You have so many more ways to communicate than we did, and by and large, you suck at all of them. Here's a few tips. When an alum contacts you, or anybody else in the network, even if you don't have any new information to give, get back to them. Let them know, I hear you, I'm on it, here's what I know so far. These guys are busy, and being incommunicado might lose you a valuable resource. Next, if you were here for J.J. Peller's talk last year, he talked about LinkedIn and getting on there. Don't just use the standard template on LinkedIn or I would like to connect with you. Say a little bit about yourself as he prescribes. Still, I have to mention that because I'm still getting requests from students that's still using that template, that boring template. Now, I will accept those requests, but it just came up in a meeting, National Association. One board member said, if I get those requests and I don't have a context for why that person is trying to contact me, even if it's a Wabash person, it goes in the trash. Also, this is a big one. Don't be afraid to use the phone. Now, yes, this is generational, but yes, I grew up with a phone and I still struggle using the phone. But more than a long series of texts or a too long didn't read email, if you want answers and you want to get people there, dial. Next, introduce yourself. It starts here on campus. And since I've started working here and since the school year has started, I really notice how well you as students look people in the eye and greet them when you're passing each other on this campus. That is really important. A lot of schools don't do that. People notice that. One visitor said that it's not, the only other place I've seen that more regularly is service academies. So keep doing that. I'm not always good at it either, so that's something that I will work on if you work on that as well. Also realize that of those people who are on this campus, it's not just students and faculty and staff. We've got alumni, speakers, parents, friends, prospective students, yes, parents of prospective students as well. And these people are on here daily. Don't be afraid to take up a conversation with them, and don't just wait for a networking event to introduce yourself and connect. More than a year ago, I was working at a startup at an old schoolhouse with about 5 other companies in it. On the first week of work there, Tom Denari, class of 1985, walked up to me and introduced himself. Now, Tom is president of Young & Larimore advertising firm. And I had emailed him back and forth a few years before to get some career advice on possibilities of advertising or things like that. Still, he took the time to welcome me to the building, and we saw each other pretty regularly after that. Same place, about a month later, I was sitting outside on a park bench, enjoying the nice sunshine, doing some work, waiting for my lunch to get arrived, and I had this Tervis tumbler. So you can see it's got Wally Wabash playing golf on it. It's from Mitchum Croc a couple years ago. And this guy saw that, came up to me, and said, "Did you go to Wabash?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hi, my name's Kaz. Great to meet you. I'm working at Young Larimore this summer as an intern." Boom, there it is. Guess what? He's having lunch with me right there and then. Guess what? Saw each other in the building, asked how's it going. Develop a connection right from there. Now, I'm going to borrow a trick from Coach Morgan. I'm not going to chest bump anybody, but I love the way he addressed the camera up there in the balcony. That is the network, or it's us in the future. And if I could speak to you right now, as the network, part of my advice is that when you come to campus, I think a lot of times visitors, and especially alumni who haven't been here in a while, marvel at the idea that buildings are different, and where's Wall Hall, and what the hell happened to Sigma Chi House? Why are the teak letters on it? And they get caught up in the newness of the differences of the campus that's here now and the campus that was here when you were here. Recognize also that just as I've instructed these guys to introduce themselves to you, introduce yourselves to them. Alumni, I will say your toughest year as an alum is your 5th year out. Why? Because nobody went to school, nobody was on campus that went to school with you. And that's always the toughest thing. So go back to the point of introducing yourself. That's very important. And also, too, let's get beyond this idea of what you hear in the media about what it's like for kids on campuses today and universities and all of this stuff that you're going to get. You're going to get the click. Don't fall for the clickbait of millennials are killing Applebee's. Thanks, guys. Good job on that one. But talk to the students directly if you want to know what's going on campus and how these guys are living and working and playing. That's your best resource. Okay, back to you guys. Another quote I like from Steal Like an Artist: if you ever find that you're the most talented person in the room, you need to find another room. I really like this quote because it informs a stat that we like to bandy about. You've heard this one: 1 in 8, 1 in 10, Wabash alum carries the title of president and CEO. Let's think critically on this for a minute. Have you ever thought about why? I have a theory. It's because we hate working for idiots. Now, by idiots, I also mean micromanagers and martyrs and blame casters or any insecure or incompetent coworker or manager that you have to deal with. But I will say, I didn't say that we won't work for them, because in many cases that's unavoidable. In many cases you have bigger things to do in your career, and it's sort of a necessary evil of doing work among people. There are plenty of things written about working with difficult people, and the one insight I can give you is no matter how bad some of these experiences have been, I have learned valuable things about doing my job and trying to work through them. So don't count that out. So my theory, Wabash men will work for these people patiently, and they'll gut it out, and they will learn the business and how to do things. It's nothing but a quick conversation with some guys who are just a couple years out, who are in sales, and they're already got it. They got how the product works, they got what they need to sell, they're working the network, and they've got it. And guess what? They get bored, and they're looking. What you do is keep working in those situations, make your contacts, figure out how the business works, and what happens is when they find the right opportunity and the right people, then they strike out on their own. So that's my theory about why we can claim that. Patience is very important. I hate to tell you this, gentlemen, but when you walk off that stage after receiving your diploma, you're not going to have a venture capitalist or vice president of a company offer you a job. It doesn't work like that. But when you do get that sit down, when you do get that networking contact and you're able to have coffee or have a phone conversation, don't expect a job, but use that opportunity to explore that person's work, that person's livelihood. Ask where that person thinks his or her job is going to be in about 5 years. See where it's going. Ask the pitfalls. What is the worst thing about doing your job? What is the thing that you hate? What is the thing that you love? What is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning? These are going to be the great parts of this connection that you've made. Always ask for advice and always take notes. Now, this is another liberal arts thing that I found as far as when we get out. We get good at a lot of different things and we get good at a lot of different skills. But it doesn't always narrow us to where we think we could go. And we get caught up in the paths that lay out before us. Most of the things I hear from students when I'm talking to them is, what if I make the wrong step? What if I go the wrong place? Guess what? Make a step. Go forward. Even if it doesn't turn out to be the right path, you're moving forward. So never let that carry you forward, and always learn from where you've been going. Now, the last thing that I can impart to you is the importance of listening, and thank you for listening so far. In the past 5 years, I've worked with a lot of people in their 20s. And a lot of them are so excited to tell you everything they know and everything they've been learning and how awesome everything is. I'm patient. I jot down a few things to say once they run out of air, and then I get my word out. You see, I was that person too. And in my 20s, I was so eager to share everything I was learning that I didn't listen as much as I should have. But guess what? When I was in my 30s, or maybe late 30s, I started getting tired of my own stories. And I really wanted to hear what other people's experiences were, and their insights, and their thoughts, and their opinions. And that's where I really learned good stuff. So, I've gone on pretty well, but I also had a bunch of great stories that I wanted to put in here that didn't fit. I wanted to focus the speech more practically, so to give you guys some good advice. So I took out one of my favorite Monon Bell stories, and also a story that involves Bob Allen, who said one short sentence in a meeting that really decided the fate of a building here on campus, and it's not the building you'd expect. But you'll have to nab me later to tell you those stories. You see, I'm teeing it up for a later conversation with me, so use that. But now I've got one plan, one major plan that I need to do. I'm hungry. I want to go eat. I'm going to go over to Sparks, and I'm going to set up at a big table with nobody in it by myself. And if you want to join me, you can. And hopefully, I'll be able to make a good connection. But better yet, maybe you will too. Thanks, Wabash.